What if you are one of those parents that had your child snatched, I say kidnapped, under color of law, with no hearing, no trial by jury, no warning? They just show up, let us in, we're cops and we're CPS here and we're taking your kid. That's why in the beginning that I showed you the actual footage. How did that Anna Nikolaev get that footage? She set her camera taping when she saw the cops knock her husband Alex to the ground. She just set it on the shelf and taped it, and the cops came in looking for the baby, and you can see in the words, we'll play it later again so you can see that later in the show before we go out. The cops say, don't resist, we're going to take your baby, and don't fight us, don't resist, we're going to take your baby. They didn't say, we have a warrant, it's signed by a judge, a jury has ruled you're unfit parents, because they weren't unfit parents. Now here's the rub. You saw that Dr. Florian Curia speaking right after candidate for governor Tim Donnelly spoke. Now this is the first time in 20 years with millions of parents and children affected in this state, millions affected, millions hurt by CPS. This is the first time I have ever witnessed a statewide or even an assembly candidate stand up for the parents' right to have a trial by jury before they grab your children and then force you to sign documents or you can't see your kid. If you don't sign this document giving us legal control of your child, we won't even let you visit your kid even though they're crying and screaming and you can hear them in a back row, Mommy, Mommy, Daddy, Daddy, help me. No, you can't see your kid till you sign these documents. This is extortion. Then they falsified documents saying, we found the children filthy in a filthy house and starving and blah, blah, blah. And then they will down-dress the kids before they go to the hearing and say, this is how we found them, Judge. This happens routinely. These CPS workers need to be indicted. Now, I'll show you the footage next week of the hearing. And you'll see the same pretty blonde, blue-eyed mom with her husband, Alex, and Tim Donnelly sitting in room 444 while the Joint Legislative Audit Committee heard her tell her horrifying story. But it's not the first one. This has been happening for 20 years under the disguise of child protective services. Oh, we're the social workers and we protect children from abusive parents. They do drugs, they smoke pot, they get drunk, they don't take care of the children. That's true maybe 1% or less of the time. And even in those cases, the children are usually better off with the parents than being raped and murdered by a pedophile foster mom or foster father. If you don't believe how evil this is, you need to go to my YouTube channel and put in Logan Marr, state of Maine, dead. Put that in and see the little girl that was duct taped to death by a CPS ex-worker because she knew all the CPS workers. She just left that job. And they wouldn't let grandma have the child, so they gave it to an ex-CPS worker who duct taped the little Logan Marr to death. Well, we just had June 5th, just days ago, is some accountability. CPS senior workers were sitting in that hearing room watching what was going down, thinking, oh my God, they got us. We're going to get our butts reamed. We better start funding the candidates who will stop our butt from being reamed out as it so well deserves to be. And then you saw a line, a continuous line. The hallway was packed. I had to nudge and say, excuse me, can I get past you, please? Can I get... just to get in the hearing room. And Channel 10 was covering it. Fox News was covering, although Fox didn't give it much airtime, if any. but Channel 10 in Sacramento did. I spent 15 hours coming and going to be there on short notice, thanks to Michael Warnken, who will be with us here in the show in a little bit. This is a valid issue, and I am telling you the truth. The Russian Embassy got involved because Anna Nikolaev and her husband Alex were Russian immigrants. And when CPS grabbed their child with no trial, no hearing for their crime, when they said, your baby's got a little hole in their heart and we're going to do surgery on it, they said, excuse me, you're going to take my little 3 or 4 month old baby and subject it to surgery? We want to get a second opinion. So they left the Sutter Hospital and they went to Kaiser Permanente in Sacramento. And they got a second opinion. And they said, this is not as crucial as you think it is, and your child is pretty healthy. Eventually, they said, you know, this hole is not closing up, and they did do the surgery. But they wanted a second opinion. Before they could do the surgery in a different hospital where they trusted the hospital staff, CPS came. They came one day, looked at the cops came one day, looked at the baby, said, baby's fine, it's being well cared, the house is clean, the parents got an immaculate house, and everything's fine. They left. Then CPS sent their false paperwork signed without penalty of perjury. And this is what the CPS criminals often do. They fill out the paperwork. They don't say, and I swear to this under penalty of perjury that every word I put in here is the God's gospel truth. They never do that. And that's why when the parents go into that closed family courtroom, I call it a dungeon, star chamber proceeding, because the public is not allowed. But CPS can have lawyers and CPS wannabes that are being trained to be kidnappers. They can have 10 or 12 people in there. But the parent is only allowed one relative, and only if they ask for it in advance. Then it's optional to the judge. So there's no witnesses as to the lies and the crimes of the CPS workers. My only disappointment in watching 100 or so people who've been abused by CPS step up and say, I'm so-and-so and I support the full audit statewide of CPS. 100 people stood up. Then the committee, especially that Hannah Beth Jackson, she said, well, we ought to look for the places where CPS does a good job and they do it right, so we know how to do it right. These people have been operating with no accountability for more than 20 years. They take people that dropped out of high school and give them the power to kidnap kids, even if they never had a child of their own. This is insanity. Insanity on steroids and crack cocaine. Insanity on crack cocaine. That's what these CPS workers are like. They're like Nazi stormtroopers. They think they're above the law. Well, you may remember me talking about SBX 211, where they went retroactively and changed the law retroactively. Once they did that and got away with legalizing bribing judges for the LA 400 dirty ones that got caught by Richard Fine, I said, okay, there's no reason why we can't retroactively go back even beyond the statute of limitations and even grab the CPS workers that are retired and collecting their pensions, make their pensions forfeit. It goes to the victims of their abuse, the parents that lost their children wrongfully because of forged, faked, and fabricated evidence, just like we saw in the Michael Jackson trial. You know, the Michael Jackson trial, you know, this guy behind me. By the way, we're going to show you this banner. We got this marvelous Michael Jackson banner prepared by some marvelous Jackson fans in Los Angeles. And it's so large we can't even get the whole thing on the set here, but we'll do a sweeping view of it here. There's Michael on the left end, and we're going to sweep across and show you more later. And why is this relevant to the Jackson family?